Gentlemen, I wanted to get into the new leadership, the gun issue in New York, all these things that are happening. But Donald Trump last night made his announcement that he's going to run for president in 2024. Well, not totally unexpected. It's something that has been floated around amongst not only our circles, the rank and file electorate, and of course people within the Republican Party. Should
Right.
Trump run? Should Trump not run? But the fact is, he's doing so. What do you think?
So I was on BBC 4 this morning, early our time, early their time, talking about this. And as I said to the British, the, the Commonwealth audience, I'll say it again here. There are several issues that President Trump has to fix to be successful. First, he's got to do a better job of selecting people around him to facilitate his policies. Uh, there were a number of failures during the time he was president that related to bad personnel choices, and I think I'd like to believe he's learned from that. Secondly, some of the great policies he created, like the Abraham Accords, and I think a no new war policy relating to national security were great. But again, he did not have the bureaucratic depth. That is to say, he did not have the control of the bureaucracies within the government to facilitate those things becoming real and sustained. Next time, if there is a next time, he's got to go 3 levels down to select leaders who are willing to support his policies. I believe his policies were correct, by the way. I did say that. And third, he's got to really account for some of the issues relating to COVID. He's got to move forward with really demanding China be held accountable for releasing the virus. And more importantly, the issue of Fauci. For better or for worse, he embraced and allowed Fauci to do what he did. He allowed Operation Warp Speed to go forward, and there's been really no accounting for what we've now come to find some real issues of health, myocarditis, and other adverse effects from the vaccines to a number of groups. So those things I think need to be examined in detail before he can successfully run for president. Otherwise, those are things that become additional baggage to the fact that a certain percentage of the population hate him and will do everything they can to oppose his running for office. So those are my initial views from his declaring for president.
Well,
Jay, what are your thoughts?
just to respond to that, uh, before exploring other angles, but the fact is that Trump went into the presidency without having a team, that he hadn't really thought into who he's going to use for the different things. And he kind of was winging it and not really expecting to win. And so when he won, he was already in a deep hole because you, you got to have plays, you got to have people lined up. So the good news that I have to report here is that he's not going to make that full mistake again. There is not necessarily stage managed by him, but at least on the Republican side of things, there are a certain amount of recruiting efforts that are already in place. I can't give out a lot of information, obviously. I just want to reassure people that there are recruiting efforts in place now where they are looking at and trying to get solid people ready so that Trump or DeSantis, if the right people win, they will have people to turn to for implementation and not have to start from scratch. When in 2016, when he won, I personally approached people and said, "How do I apply for a job in the administration?" And they said, "Oh, there's a website." Okay, and I figured, what am I going to throw my name into a million names on a website? I didn't even do it. So, that's personal experience. And by the way, another interesting thing that's important to mention, it's a little bit of a tangent, but almost never do these candidates look at the good policy analysts as a place to take people from. So you can have guys been writing fantastic policy in the Republican, leaning magazines for 30 years, and gets it all right, and it doesn't help him one bit. There was a guy named David Hogberg. I haven't seen him in some years. Who he wrote to the American Spectator, and in one Senate contest in a midterm, he predicted every single race correctly. Now, it blew my mind. It's almost impossible because some of these races are settled by a few thousand votes. He predicted every single race correctly. Now, if you were in any other business in the world, if a guy could do that, he'd immediately be hired on by some major business to be, somewhere near the top as an analyst. But it doesn't help. The guy, Tony can go on TV 100 times and analyze the thing exactly, and that doesn't help. Now Tony he gets, they know him anyway. But I'm just saying, it's not just being on TV and getting it right, not going to get you anywhere. And so the result is that a lot of the smart guys end up not getting hired, and that's a big problem. Now, but let's just go back to Trump and sort of kind of bottom line it. The bottom line is Trump has to figure out a way how to get past the negatives that he's been building up, a lot of unforced errors as well. He has to figure out a way to get by the negatives. His positives are that he first of all, he did it once and pretty well before COVID came, and second of all, that he has a successful career in not only in construction, but just in general, and seeing where the world is going and picking projects that succeed in all kinds of fields, including television. So he somehow has to figure out a way how to sell himself better, but things are not looking up for that. Put it that way. I'm not optimistic, because when he already went after DeSantis in a foolish way, right at the moment that DeSantis won a big victory, terrible mistake. Clearly not. No one was advising him. Stop gunning for DeSantis now. No one's smart was advising.
Yeah, I think people were advising him. He just doesn't always take the advice. And that's my experience based on having advised him in his campaign. So I think at times he's a bit mercurial for the wrong reasons. And I think, to your point, trying to pick a fight with DeSantis at the time, DeSantis has done very well for the state of Florida. Trump even admits he votes for him. I don't know what this is about Trump if he's trashing the guy he just voted for. Just saying, the optic is not good. So.
It's going to be theatrical. It's going to be fun to watch. But the fact is Donald Trump able to win another election? And I'm not saying because he doesn't have a following. I'm saying because there were laws put in place to fortify the election, as was bragged about in Time magazine after 2020. We're going to talk about that. There are election integrity issues, but these are designed to keep they're thought to design to keep Republicans from winning in certain states. But the fact is, combine that with the media attention and the scrutiny he's going to get. Example number one, that as soon as Trump made the announcement, CNN puts out a fact check on him. But I never ever see a fact check on Joe Biden when he pulls his speech out. That Dwight Schrute speech he put up a little before the election. There were no fact checks there, but I do remember, and I want to take you back to the George Bush administration, the George W. Bush administration. Towards the end of that, near the election, there was a lot of news media fact checking on his speeches, even as the guy was talking. That never happened with Obama, and it didn't happen with Joe Biden. There's a perception that the media has created that Donald Trump is a big fat liar and a loudmouth. Okay, well, he did the loudmouth thing on his own. But the fact is, that's in people's heads. It doesn't help when Trump pulls his theatrics, and that could render him unable to win. So the question is, will there be support? And again, I'm not asking who you, me, or anybody else here watching is supporting, but I'm saying, will there be a waning of support for Donald Trump in favor of somebody with maybe more favorable populist policies, but maybe a little bit less on the theatrics and the over scrutinized approach towards him by the media? That's a lot of words, but that's the question. Tony?
Well, I guess I'll address it first. Trump has created conditions for those to hate him, no doubt. And I think it takes some work to get past that. I speak to people all the time based on being a former advisor to the Trump 2020 campaign. You know, how do I view his mean streak? It's like I view it like, so what? He is who he is, but he's got good policies. So I always refer back to the policies which were successful and actually contributed to benefiting the American people during his time. I think on the direction of things relating to people, how they interpret him, I don't know how anybody will rationally vote for a Democrat at this point. I don't understand how people can vote against their own self-interest, but they do constantly. So I think there needs to be a bridge made between what benefits Trump brought to every American, and try to remind people, you know, he's not a perfect guy. And the media did go about this vilification of him purposely. That was done with a great deal of vigor and enthusiasm by the media. But there has to be essentially a battle over the next 2 years. Remember, we've got 2 years to go. I mean, we're 2 years out. Although it seems like, you know, these last 2 years went pretty fast. I would argue they didn't. They kind of drug along. We've got 2 more years. So this next year has to be something where the deal that Trump is offering has to be sold. He's got to sell it. I don't think there's anybody else out there who can stand up to him regarding fundraising, regarding reach. And I like DeSantis. I know Governor DeSantis. I've met him. I worked to advise he and his caucus when he was a member of Congress. And as much as I think he's an amazing administrator, an amazing leader, I just don't know if he has even the interest of running against Trump at this point. He's relatively young. I mean, he's literally half of Donald Trump's age. So he's got a lot of time left that he can do good things. So I almost think it's in his interest to focus on Florida and not worry about the other stuff right now. The other people in the field, Pence, big time eye rolls. Like, yeah, I just don't see Pence doing anything. And my friend Mike Pompeo, I like Mike a lot, but again, I don't think Mike would have the fundraising or name recognition necessary to take on a Trump in a series of primaries, which would be, I think, largely dominated by people who love President Trump. So I think the path forward, my advice is to Trump, moderate your mean streak. If I'm asked, because I was asked last night what I advise their campaign against, like, yeah, my as I've told a number of folks, Tony Zinni, General Tony Zinni, once instructed me, because I asked him for the guidance. I said, what do I do as someone in a position to advise regarding policy? And he said, you advise anybody who asks for it, no matter what the political party is. So, and I've said this before, I'd advise Democrats if they ask for the advice. I have advised Democrats, but they generally don't want my advice because they're not interested in effective foreign policy. They're interested in those who will say what they want to hear. And I will not do that, even for the Trump administration. And I've said before here on this venue and others, while I was advising their campaign, they didn't take my advice to the level I think that would have helped them. Just saying. So I think that's one of the stipulations I would actually ask for, is like, if you ask me to advise, next time listen to my advice, because I think some mistakes were made by not listening to it.
By the way, that's a great piece of advice from General Zinni, where, you know, you should always be prepared, regardless of party, to advise anyone who's interested.
That's right.
It's up to them if they want to buy in. No question about that. But here's what I want to say about DeSantis. He's a great guy, and he has a track record of not trying to go up against people who are a step ahead in the party. So, like, when the first time I met DeSantis, I was sitting next to him at a dinner, and he was officially a candidate for Senate at that point, because Rubio was running in the primary for president. But the minute that Rubio realized he's not going to win, and he shut down his campaign and said he's going to run for re-election, DeSantis immediately shut down his campaign and went back to run for Congress. So, you know, in that respect, he has a track record as a gentleman, I'm willing to wait my turn. And so that portends him, not really standing up against Trump. Sure, put it this way: if he does go up against Trump, he's certainly not going to do it now. He's not going to do it 2 years out, because he'll put his head down, work hard as governor, try to do good stuff, and then I'll watch and see if Trump is coasting. Hey, then he probably will hang back. If Trump is bouncing along and not getting as far as he might have anticipated, he might, jump in. Don't forget, Ronald Reagan did jump in against Gerald Ford and almost beat him in that primary.
That's true.
So I think he's a smart strategist. He's a Marine, a Navy guy, and he'll have a good instinct of whether he should make a move this time or not. The other thing I want to say about Trump is that, one of the there's a famous line from the military that the generals are always fighting the last war because, what worked last time, you do it again. And the truth is that to be a nimble businessman or a nimble politician, you have to be recognized when that old technique doesn't apply anymore. So when he ran the first time in a field of 17 guys who were all political professionals, and he started cutting them all down with the cute little, not cute to the guys, they all hated him for it, but all the little insults, nicknames that were not complimentary.
I think they're cute. I don't mind those, but I mean,
right. But I'm saying
we're us. We're us.
I'm saying when he did it as the outsider the first time, you could do it. But I think when he's starting already making, names for DeSantis, big mistake. Put that name game aside. It worked as the outsider. Now you're already a guy who was president, and it's just not. Now, don't remember, what's the chance to listen to me? Very little. People told him from day one, don't be unpresidential.
Thank you for joining us for this portion of our Thought to Action live stream presented by Project Sentinel and the London Center for Policy Research. You can find this in its entirety on our Patreon page, patreon.com/thought-to-action. You can join us there, patreon.com/thought-to-action. We have plenty of new things happening. You'll have exclusive content, shows you can't see anywhere else, and our special Ask Us Anything sessions. You can also find more about Project Sentinel on our website, projectsentinel.net, the Herb London Center, londoncenter.org. And if you like what we're doing, please hit that subscribe button and join us for future programs. Once again, thank you very much for viewing and or listening, and make your day a great one.